Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Holli Moeini. Hi, Holli.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here today.
I am so excited to have you here as well. We're going to have a fantastic conversation. You are definitely very system oriented and see the importance of systems. And we are going to talk about your area. Well, I'm going to introduce you and then we're going to start a conversation. So that will be like your, first of all, with the bio. So you are a CFO, CPA, and M&A advisor. So merger and acquisitions advisor, and you help buyers and sellers strengthen their companies, which is very important from the buyer side and from the seller side. Reduce risk and maximize value at every stage of a deal. As an EVP and CFO, you led finance, operations, IT, security, and company-wide strategy, guiding organic growth, acquisitions, and major systems implementations. So you've done it all. You understand what it takes to run a business, not just analyze one. So you definitely walk the walk, which is very important. Mm-hmm. And that's very important when you're actually advising people, because if you haven't done it yourself, then it's kind of like, yeah, it's a great idea, but so it's super important. So Holli, great having you. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start by giving our listeners a little bit of a background about you and how did you get to where you are now in terms of advising on M&A and finance, etc.
I love that. I mean, you said everything in the bio, but I will say that one of the things that you're talking about is doing things over and over again. And whether I'm deploying systems or whatever you're doing, even in M&A, you have to do it again and again, so that you can debrief and find all the things you can improve on, because we're always improving. And there's no such a thing as being done when it comes to systems and improvement, which, I'm preaching to the choir here. So my background was, I really started out in public accounting. I was in audit. I did a lot of forensic stuff. It was in tax, just enough to be dangerous. And then left for my first company when they said, come on board, we want to sell. And at the time, let me demystify something while I'm talking about my bio is, even as a CPA, CPAs are not trained to help you sell your business. You have to be in an area of a CPA firm that focuses on transactions. So even though I was a very good CPA, I didn't know how to maximize value or any of that. So my first business, I didn't know what I was doing, but the president and CEO did. He was an engineer, by the way, as well. And he came in and he leveraged me to really help maximize value through a proper accounting. That's what he did. And we sold for 9 figures. That was my first thing. I didn't know what I was doing though back then. And then
I'm actually very curious, and I'm sure our listeners as well. So how can you maximize value through accounting? What will be your advice on how that can be done?
It's so important. So I have a lot of sellers that come, and I work on the buy side and the sell side. So I see you come, bring your records. And then sometimes if I'm helping you, I won't allow you to do what they do. Okay. So they bring their records and it's cash basis financial statements. So if you think about it, Adi, most accountants and most small to medium sized businesses, which is I think who we help, their tax or their accounting people are really to get less taxes. So they are motivated for compliance and less taxes. And I agree 100% on that. But you don't give your cash basis books to a buyer. That's the lowest value you'll get, particularly when you're growing, because you have less revenue. You're waiting for cash to come in. If you think about it, it makes sense, right? So My CEO had been there and done it many times when he hired me, and he knew we had inventory. So we got very creative with generally accepted accounting principles, which is the magic of accounting, right? And most people don't realize that accounting is gray, it's not black and white. And so I see this again and again, and we're going down a little rabbit path here, but just know if you're a seller and you have in any of your sale agreements, if you have language that says gap, you better have it defined into language you understand. Don't think that that's common knowledge. And I can tell you war stories about that later. But yeah, so he leveraged me to help maximize the EBITDA through accounting and through the gray area of accounting. And so I got very good at, and we had an audit, so it had to be with integrity, but it's creative, right?
So okay, so that creativity. So yeah, accrual accounting. Okay, so that's one way of being creative. What is another way, Holly? Give us another. It seems like
so
we know a lot, and we need to know some of those tricks.
well, just for example, so another one is if you have leases. So let's say you have a car fleet and you have leases. That's an expense that goes against your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That's called EBITDA. That's kind of like the holy grail. Although I do want to say that's only one part of the price. Systems, and there's other things that are part of the price too. So we don't want to get caught up in that. But everybody starts with EBITDA. And so for the lease expense, it deducts it. So it reduces your enterprise value. But if you bought that equipment, you don't have that lease anymore, and it's depreciation now. So it never reduces your EBITDA, ever. It goes below the line as depreciation expense. Think about that. And the other thing, Adi, I'd say is that it wasn't really happening a lot back then, but it's happening now, is AI. We are programming AI software or whatever it is that's going to be into the future. You should be capitalizing that, putting that on your balance sheet and amortizing it, right?
So
These
you're
are the
basically
things
saying, let's say, for
nobody
instance,
thinks about.
let's say
Yes.
you're in the trades and you have and you are now you created this software that is going to help with booking appointments. And so you are saying it's basically this is an asset that you have right now because you are improving the business in the
Yes.
future, although it didn't work on it yet.
Yes, and what I see is that most of those consulting expenses are in against your EBITDA, so it's reduced your EBITDA. But if you take it out and you depreciate it, it's never a part of your EBITDA. So we just increased your enterprise value by X amount times your multiple of 8 times or whatever you're going to sell for. So it becomes literally millions of dollars with the magic of proper accounting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
But now,
one
okay,
thing,
so now, but if
okay,
you
yeah.
represent the buyer, how do you negotiate the seller?
So if I'm the buyer, I look for those opportunities that immediately, and private equity does this too right now. They will look for people that give you cash basis books. I will buy it for the amount of the cash basis books. Then the very next day, I change the accounting. It's worth millions of dollars more. You could turn around and sell it the next day for millions of dollars more, and the seller doesn't even know they lost that money. This is the problem, because sophisticated buyers know. And one thing I will say for your audience out there that maybe people don't know is you usually have 2 sets of books. You have one for tax. I never say get rid of your tax basis books. And you have one for, I call it management books, but those are your books to improve value. And the little secret is that every large company has 2 sets of books. That's a normal thing. But somehow that translation has been lost with our SMB market.
So when you are saying 2 sets of books, so let's say we have somebody in the audience or many in the audience,
Yeah.
let's say they're using QuickBooks Online. So basically they should have 2 different subscriptions.
No, it's actually a toggle, cash, accrual.
And
Every
accrual, yeah.
software has a toggle on it, cash and accrual. And unless you have immediate cash receipts, you're your sales, your revenue will be better usually on accrual. Unless you're declining, then you shouldn't sell anyway. If you're declining, let's fix things and then sell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Holly, so let's talk about systems. That's dear to my heart. And how can systems or having systems in a business increase the value of the business?
I love this question, and I love it because I don't get to talk about it very much. So I'm excited to be with you today so we can talk about it. When you think about your value, probably 75% of the business that are trading out there trade at a multiple range. And so the size of your EBITDA, not your revenue, your EBITDA gets you into a range. And usually, like, let's say a typical range is 3 to 6 or 6 to 8, something like that. So you're in a range. Now, 6 and 8 is a big difference of the range. It could be millions of dollars for you. Like, it's a big difference. So how do you go from a 6 to an 8? So EBITDA gets you in there with the size. And then what gets you closer, edges you closer to the premium, I'm going to call it a premium multiple, is systems. One of the big things that is really wildly overlooked is systems. And so let's roll back and say, pretend, all my sellers out there, pretend you're the buyer. I'm going to pay more for you if you can de-risk this investment after the day of closing, meaning my risk as a buyer goes down and my happiness factor goes up, that I'm going to be able to get the same cash flow stream. So if we roll that back, the things that make me feel comfortable as a buyer are systems and processes and practices. You may not think that gives you a premium. I'm going to tell you that gives you a premium all day long, because what it ensures is that your process and practice, nothing is going to break down after close, because it's documented, everybody's doing it. So if you think the other side of the coin in this is that you have a founder that has everything in their head, or they're leading a lifestyle business, those aren't as maybe they can't even sell, but you don't sell at a premium if all the eggs are in the leadership basket and all their systems are in their head and they don't have a leadership bench. So having a leadership bench that has, everybody understands the process and practice. So when you sell to private equity, you're trying to get that big payday, which happens is you're marched in there and they want to know all about your systems and practices. So not just your EBITDA.
One of the things that can happen, then the owner has to stay on, and that's the last thing you want.
Yes.
You want to just,
or you want the owner to stay on, but you want them to do something else. You don't want them having to do all this other stuff. I'll tell you. So I recently had a transaction that got a premium. It was a it was an 8-figure. It was an 8-figure deal, and private equity was the buyer, and he just marched in, showed them all his systems and practices, and of course EBITDA was great. The first thing that you have to get through as a seller is you have to get through what's called diligence, and your financial records have to be impeccable. I mean, there only 20 to 30% of the businesses that want to sell actually sell. So think about that. The reason why they're not selling is they can't even get past the financial records. So discipline and systems has to go to that as well, the financial records. But these guys came into the room and talked to private equity, and they were drooling over their practice. And typically private equity is buying, they had already had their platform, and then they buy other companies and stack them on top. And what had happened is this was like number 6 in the stack or something like that. They were number 6. They weren't the platform company, but they had such good practice and policies, and everybody else in the stack had to use their systems.
That's incredible. That's definitely.
And they sold at a premium. Exactly. Yeah. They sold at a premium. And so I can't say that enough, how important that is for you as a founder. You're usually the biggest bottleneck to scaling and to getting that really high premium for your business. And so if you can put in the systems and the practices, that's really, really important to your value and just to you. I think every business owner should be ready to sell at any minute, even if you don't even think about it, because what that does is it creates a discipline in your financial numbers are good, they're on time, they're right. You have systems and processes for your widgets or whatever you're doing. And you're creating more value for yourself and for your family. And you never know. You will exit at some point in time. You just don't know when and how much.
That's very true.
You should be ready.
Mm-hmm. You should be ready. It's very similar to an analogy of living in a home. And yeah, you can repair it and fix it before you sell, but why not just do it all the time and pretend like you are just live as if you sell tomorrow? And I think also, it comes, I just like it. I always like to go through things and just throw it away, give it away, if it's not needed, not to just accumulate things. And it just gives you a great sense of, I'm living in this house because I like it. Because if tomorrow I have to pack everything and move, I can, just
That's
like
right.
that kind of like, it gives you freedom, honestly. It gives you, that's what it does. It gives you freedom. It doesn't tie you down to things that you know that you should be doing, but you're not doing.
It's true. And that is so, you can go on vacation and disconnect. These are things that are really important for being human. And I see that a lot of CEOs, founders really struggle with letting go of some of those things. And that is something that will hurt them over time. So I try to help that go along in a nice direction.
I love it.
It's hard.
And you're definitely helping people. You are helping businesses. Holli, who is your ideal, like if our listeners are listening to us right now, like who do you like to work with?
I like working on the buy side and the sell side. And so if my buyers are new buyers, usually coming into the market, or you've bought before, again, you really don't know how to buy until you've done it a bunch of times. In my background, that's how I learned it. I didn't learn it as a CPA. I learned it by actually after that one sale, then I became a buyer, and I was the CFO of an engineering company, and a part of our strategic plan was buying businesses. So I was deal flowing all the time, and that's how you learn it. And so what's happened now is we have this tsunami of baby boomers that are actually trying to exit. You've got private equity, $6 trillion trying to deploy capital. You have most businesses that get tossed out during diligence, right? So it's one of those things that's really difficult. So those buyers that are coming in trying to buy a bunch of businesses and roll them up and sell them to private equity, those are great for me. I love them, and I love helping them and making sure that they're getting good deals and not taking on extra risk. And then my sellers, anybody who is wanting to sell that needs some CFO and some strategic help around what should I look like, what should I be ready for, would be a perfect candidate for coming to me and me being able to really help them and give them a return on their investment.
That's awesome. So if they want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
They can go to my website at hollimoeini.com. That's a lot of vowels. I apologize for that. It's HOLLIMOEINI.com. And you can also find me on social media under the same name, and come reach out. I'd love to discuss any of your goals with you. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll include it in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Holli, it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast. What a great conversation. And I agree with you. Those systems are important, but also knowing and working with an expert in order to make sure to maximize. This is a transaction that you want to maximize, and maximize also the value of your business. So when you're selling, you're buying. So I encourage our listeners to reach out to you. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.